Well, good morning, Santa Clarita. Welcome in. Welcome in. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson, and our show, Eye on the Valley, is brought to you, like I said, by SCVi and iLead Schools. We are a network of charter schools with campuses in Castaic, Agua Dulce, Lancaster. We've got a fully accredited online school. We've got an incredible homeschool program called iLead Exploration. You're going to hear more about iLead Exploration in just a moment, but for more information on any one of our 6 charter schools, visit us at iLeadschools.org. And remember, charter means free. We are a free public school funded in the same way your district schools are. Here in California, the funding follows the student, so that's great for your kids. It's great for the schools that they attend. So one more time, visit us at iLeadschools.org for more information on any one of the number of formats that would be perfect for your children. So yeah, we've got our eye on education here in Santa Clarita and across the nation. But like the show says, we keep our eye on the Valley as well, bringing you everything that you need to know about what's what here in the Valley. And then once in a while, we'll goof off and giggle and mess around just a little bit, because you know, I tell my boss, if I can't giggle and chuckle a little bit, then I ain't doing it. So it really does limit the work that I can do around the office. But yeah, stick me on the radio and we can play and bring you lots of informative content and update you on what's going on in the community. Speaking of what's going on in the community, you better have something going on this weekend. This is going to be one of those stunners. It's, you know, there's just a little bit of a nip in the air. The pumpkin spice is in the local coffee house. The political signs are all over the fences. You know that fall is coming when those 3 things start happening. And it's going to be an absolutely stunning weekend this weekend. Mid-80s here in the Valley, just perfect. And we've got a great show for you today. So why don't you just kind of set your weekend plans into the back of your head, kind of ponder that just a little bit, but settle in and enjoy us for an absolutely amazing show. In hour number 1, you're going to meet the director of iLead Exploration. I was just talking about that. That's the home study program I was telling you about. And so their director, Julia Kim, is going to be joining me in just a moment. Then in hour number 2, our very own Captain Justin Diaz from the Santa Clarita Sheriff Station will be by. He's an incredible guy. He's gracious. He's funny. He's a fantastic leader and law enforcement official. So we had him on the show back in February. He was absolutely great. I look forward to catching up with him again, and in fact, I think last time he stuck around and played trivia with Big T, and he seemed to enjoy it, so maybe we can impose upon him again, get him to play along, or, maybe like Jeff Barber did last week, he'll say, no, you and your brother are idiots, I'm out of here, which, hey, Jeff, good call, man. So, yeah, right, for those of you that are new to the show, my big brother Tony also joins us at the end of the show. We call it Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. It's always a lot of fun, and it always has a potential to get a little bit out of hand. So you're not going to want to miss any of it. It's going to be, as I said, a great show. So let's go ahead and get right to it. My first guest this morning is the leader of iLead Exploration. Julia is excited to be serving iLead families once again this year by supporting their unique paths to learning. Her own adventures in homeschooling her kids led her to experience the value of embracing learning in all its shapes, sizes, colors, and styles. She feels blessed to come alongside families and work together to support their educational goals and philosophies. When Julia's not working, she's usually running amok with her 3 kids or on Pinterest finding neat homeschool resources. Vegetable gardening is a family hobby as well, because heirloom tomatoes are that good. And she's about a couple years into the art of ceramics and throwing on the wheel. So that's exciting. She has a sweet tooth and an addiction to iced coffee. Julia is very much a member of the crafting and DIY world, whether it be sewing, knitting, giving new life to thrift store finds with a little bit of elbow grease and a sander. And there's very little I'm finding that Julia cannot do. One of the most amazing educators I've ever had the opportunity to work with. Julia, welcome back to Eye on the Valley.
Thank you, Matt. I am just smiling ear to ear because the things that you read, I was like, oh, I did those things. I did those things once. once when things were a little, my kids are a lot older now.
Okay.
And life looks a little different, but I think that is reflective of the fact that this is my 10th year with iLead. So
Yeah.
I think that was written when I was starting with iLead. And 10 years later, my kids are a lot older. So,
Okay.
I was smiling, reminiscing about my early days with iLead.
Okay. So amok isn't something that they run around anymore, or
It's a little more controlled, right?
Gotcha. Right.
There's driving involved, and it looks a little different now.
Yeah, driving. There's some skulking. I know the teenagers are heavy into the skulking, and everything is just such a bummer, such a drag. But so are you? I know things get busy when you're a school director as well. Are you no longer frequenting the thrift stores?
No, not as much. I will say, I think, what's interesting is when we began all of this, my intent with my kids and the reason why I actually started. So all of this started with me as a parent.
Right.
I did not know that independent study existed. I was with LUSD for 11 years and working my, tail off to just be the best educator I could be.
Sure.
I was a reading interventionist. I did stuff with science. I was in a math science tech magnet, trying to be innovative, creative, projects, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I saw for my kids when I started having kids. But I heard about this independent study thing, saw my daughter in kindergarten, and I was like, I think I got to try it. And so, that actually was 11 years ago. I actually took the leap, and I will never take for granted that I actually got to begin this journey as a parent, because I think that set the foundation for myself as a member of an independent study charter school admin team. I did start as just a parent.
Uh-huh.
Then I transitioned and I became a facilitator the following year, just a teacher. And during those years, I was still working with my kids at home, and it was amazing. As they got older, they did actually eventually transition to the high school year.
Mm-hmm.
And I also transitioned to become a coordinator, and now this is my 4th year as director. And I will say what's fascinating with my relationship with my kids and how I was interacting with them, the tables have turned that they are, I feel like I'm on independent study with them. They're teaching me how, like, technology trends, like learning AI, like, wow, it's a different world out there now. And so it's kind of nice that we've kind of flipped the tables where they're showing me some things that I need to know. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like coaching me through that. So it's been fun.
Well, that's fantastic. And it's funny. I hear a lot of families that are in independent study, and I want to talk about that term in just a second, but they do say the same thing, right? It's this journey where you're teaching your kid until all of a sudden you discover that they're teaching you. And it's just a beautiful journey that families get to take together. It is exciting. So you said that you've been with iLead for about 10 years now, but you left the traditional district to join the home study community as a parent, and then joined later as staff. Let's talk about that word, whether it's home study or homeschooling, or you are careful, and I know I always flub it. You are careful to call it independent study because legally that's what it's called. But tell me about your model. What are the similarities and differences between homeschooling by filing a PSA, and don't worry, we're going to translate that for you, versus independent study through a charter like iLead Exploration?
So I am so glad you're asking that question, because I as a mother sat questioning this myself. Do I do homeschool? Do I do independent study? And when I really looked into it, I will boil it down to, I understood what a public school could offer that I wouldn't necessarily have access to on my own. And I'll be completely honest, that's what kind of made it for me. Like, I know if I need certain types of support or resources, that the school will be able to provide it for me. And I also explored different schools to see where I would have that collaborative piece, because that was really important to me, that we were able to collaborate, because I had so many years experience as an educator. I didn't want to discount that. So I think I have the utmost respect for both. And so I think both are beautiful things. And so I know in my early years, this is what I do a lot of analogies, Matt.
I love it.
if you think about a child, every child is unique and has their own educational learning journey, right? So imagine each child at the end of their public school years or whatever, they're building a house. Every child gets to build their own house, right?
Right.
So when you're doing it PSA, your parent, whoever's overseeing you, you can build it however. PSA doesn't mean you don't have a credentialed teacher. PSA could mean that you have a credentialed mom or dad, right? It just means you're a little bit more free. So imagine building it somewhere where maybe you don't have as many restrictions, regulations, things due by this date. But at the end, you have this beautiful home.
Sure.
On the flip side, if you're independent study, you're with a public school. It's through a public school. So that would be equally your child is part of the building design process. But there maybe regulations you have to follow and search into like, hey, we need to have you install this thing by this day. Like there's some deadlines that need to take place year to year.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's going to come and assess. Is it all safe? Are we okay right here? Like right there, somebody's just going to come in and check for you. And here's the thing that I want to focus on. Both end up with a unique, one-of-a-kind, beautiful home. Nobody can take anything that away, right? The end goal to me is the same, but independent study, which is what we are, we do follow state standards. We do understand that there's different learning types, learning models. We have access to a lot of different tools. For example, like we have an entire special education department. We have curriculum libraries. We have an entire intervention team. We have a multi-tiered system of supports in place. We are NCAA. We have our NCAA. We're WASC accredited. And we provide that accountability, not just to the state, and this is something that I tell my staff all the time, Matt, we're accountable to each child. So my job is to help that child build their house, and that's my role in this. And so it's kind of like having just somebody on the outside helping, in a way,
right,
facilitating that.
Right.
And so I would say that's the difference because I respect both, and both are beautiful. Both result in amazing outcomes.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, we talked about a PSA, that's short for Public School Affidavit, or I believe it's Private School Affidavit, where families opt out of the public schools and they say, hey, we're going to kind of private school our kids at home, and they do it completely on their own, which can be freeing. But there are some advantages to working with an independent study program through a charter school. One of them, your staff, Julia, has become so incredible at knowing when to lean in and when to step back. I remember a couple of years ago talking to one of your families who mentioned that during the pandemic, this mom realized that her son really did thrive working from home, and staying home with her son and working him through a homeschool program was something that was so daunting for her. But she said her EF, our credentialed teachers that support our families, leaned way in and said, look, you've got this, I can help, and was just so tremendously supportive. And she says, Matt, as I got better at this, the EF kind of stepped back and let me handle a little bit more and more as I was comfortable, as I was ready. Julia, what are some of the other advantages that you see? Like, I know there's more than just that moral and professional support. You've got financial support for your families as well. What are some of the biggest advantages of an independent study program like iLead Exploration?
Hearing you mentioned finance, like because we have instructional funds to support it, but I'm going to be honest, as a parent, finance, absolutely helpful to purchase and be able to have access to materials, curriculum, community vendors that are helpful. But I'm going to be honest, for me, the absolute core advantage was access to what I call the hive. And I call it the hive because nobody, no matter how long you've been in independent study, you can't know all the things out there. All the new platforms, the new curriculum, the new learning centers. It changes day to day. And the one thing that's consistent in education is that things keep changing. And access to the quote-unquote hive, as I call it, is the fact that we have about 170 facilitators, many of whom, and I think this is pretty cool with our program, many of whom have their own children in our independent study program, so they know the vendors and resources around the area. But what's really cool is having conversations with staff who did independent study themselves, like as in they grew up in independent study.
Oh,
so
interesting.
I feel like when I first joined iLead, I was like, oh my gosh, I have access to like hundreds of years of experience from people that are in, and to me that is worth way more than instructional funds.
Okay.
Is experience, right? You can't put a price on experience and wisdom, and the respect, which I hope you can hear, that we respect every learning model and philosophy and approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that really comes from the staff who have been in all of it. They've grown up doing PSA or independent study or a brick and mortar. And so that collective hive mind is where I think the gold is, because whatever is coming up, we have chat threads, discussion board, all this kind of stuff within our staff. Hey, my family really is looking for something that's this.
Yeah.
And then you'll get 17 staff members who reply, oh, try this. Oh, I did. Or they'll ask, my family's asking to compare these two curricula, but I've only experienced one. Can somebody help me out comparing these two? And then you'll get a ton of staff members contributing to that conversation. So I think that is, and yes, we do have instructional funds. Yes, there's accountability. We have things like prom and meetups and park days and, lots of fun things, and kids focus on voice and choice and passion. That's all there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that, yeah.
And the reason I mention the instructional funds is a lot of families that have never been involved in independent study don't necessarily know, if their kids are having a challenge, or maybe they need the flexibility of being able to work on school when it's convenient for them. I know you've got a lot of young entrepreneurs, some elite athletes, things like that, and families don't realize, well, oftentimes they'll think, well, I could never homeschool my child because I don't have the resources. Like you said, as soon as you join iLead Exploration, you have access to those hundreds of years of experience and resources. But then they also think, okay, but where am I going to get my curriculum and all these different things? At iLead Exploration, you have access to educational funding that helps purchase, whether it's that chemistry book or the microscope or the trombone classes or what have you. Now, really quickly, we've only got about a minute before we need to break, Julia, but can you kind of compare what the role of the family is versus what the role of the facilitator is?
Family makes sure that things are getting done. Mm-hmm. I will say that because for some kids, they need a little. Some don't, though. And then the facilitator is the one who is ensuring. Their number one job is your child progressing, academically, socially, and emotionally.
All right. So the facilitator is the one that makes sure that it's on track. Mom, dad, whoever it is, makes sure that it's getting done, and it's that beautiful collaboration. Well, honestly, that all schools should be, but the way your program is set up, it's just innately that way. That is fantastic. I'm talking this morning with Julia Kim. She is the director of iLead Exploration, your free, yes, I said free, public charter school with the home study flavor, grades TK through 12. Yeah, that's something that not everybody realizes, that we have TK through 12th grade serving families across Southern California. And just when you thought you knew what home study was all about, you won't believe some of the amazing opportunities they're offering their students at iLead Exploration. Stay tuned. More on that when we get back. I'm Matt Watson, and this is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley, and you're listening to your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I'm talking this morning with Julia Kim, director of iLead Exploration, your free public charter school with the home study flavor, grades TK through 12, serving families across Southern California. And Julia, I really do think that one of the local hardware stores got the drop on us on a tagline, because I just feel like that tagline, you can do it, we can help, is perfect for the independent study model that you've got, right? Right? Because a lot of families do get overwhelmed, but you can do it because we've got that hive that you called it last break of tremendous support for your families, and they can step in and provide all the support that our families that need a little bit different model from the traditional brick and mortar school need. So, Julia, we talked all about what the format looks like, right? That it's an independent study program where kids are studying from home, families are making sure things are getting done. You've got credentialed teachers that are making sure that the kids are learning and growing, and you've got access to just an endless litany of resources that help make sure that your kids are progressing and succeeding. But you've also done a tremendous amount to help families customize their learning. You offer tons of programs that most folks would think would be absolutely impossible in a home study, in an independent study model. So let's start with project-based learning, because that's kind of the backbone on which iLead Schools, all of our different formats, was built on. iLead Exploration emphasizes a project-based learning approach. So can you share some examples of projects that students in iLead Exploration might undertake?
So here's the really unique thing about our program. Project-based learning is an approach that schools have used, research-based. It engages minds and results in a depth of understanding and critical thinking that is way better than just using a workbook, right?
Right.
Here's the thing with our program, though, Matt. When you're in an independent study and your facilitator is encouraging you from day one, what are you interested in? What are your passions? Where do you want to be? What are your goals? Okay, and what's something that you would love to study and enjoy? And before the kid even knows it, they're developing their driving question. But it's not like this formal process. And so I will say that PBL, project-based learning, in our program can look in a lot of different ways. Do have the more traditional approach, especially this works really well with families and learners who maybe have come out of a brick and mortar school and are not as used to or familiar with that level of autonomy and ownership over learning, right? Sometimes you ask a kid, hey, what are you interested in? And Matt, their answer is, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. And it's wow. And it sometimes takes a year or two, and I'm not even exaggerating, a year or two for a child to discover that, because they're kind of so used to, this is what you're doing, this is what you're studying, this is what the test is on, and they don't have a voice or choice in what it is and how they express the learning. So
it's almost like they're a passenger in their own life. Yeah.
Yes. And so now it's really hard, and it's not that they don't have interest, they just don't know how to articulate it and put it into, wait, wouldn't you mean this could be used for school?
Sure, right.
So, for example, we've had PBL units where a facilitator will help a group of children create their own business, create their own logo, create their own this. I watched one whole one where they designed their own tiny house. I saw another one where they designed their own taco truck. And the taco truck one, they were literally on Facebook Marketplace searching for used trucks.
Oh, nice.
So when we say, some of these things are so real life for these kids that it's so exciting for them, and they love sharing what it looks like in the aftermath. I'll tell you something fun that we did. It was, our pool's really cold, and so when my son was in the program, we designed 2 different ways to see if we could keep the pool, learn science, surface area, all that stuff, pressure, a little bit more than I was anticipating we would learn. But that's the cool thing with us is sometimes it's embedded in like a science theme topic, or so it can be more formal, I will say, in that way. But other times your facilitator can help walk through something like, hey, I'm having a problem, and I think I have a driving question, and I'd like to, and your facilitator kind of can help coach you through that, and have a structured way of exploring that question.
Sure. So this is interesting, Julia. So a project where it's this authentic, hands-on, real-life learning, not theoretical, like you said, from a workbook, where kids are attacking real-life problems and their learning is kind of coming almost secondarily. This can be something that a family does at home that just kind of springs up. It can be something that their facilitator helps set up for you. But then you mentioned some of these other projects are taking place within groups where several of your students are getting together at similar grade levels working on projects, whether it's together or just working on their own project and sharing together. That is really exciting. And like I said, incredibly innovative. I don't know of a lot of independent study programs doing anything like that. Speaking of something new,
Yeah. I just wanted to say we call it Learner University.
All right, okay.
Because they are able to select and choose. Because some of our kids are doing things on their own. Some of them
Sure.
want to do it, like you said, in groups. And so we have a whole thing called Learner University where kids can pick, families can pick topics where they can be interacting with kids who are also sharing that same interest. And they can approach a project together and share. And so it's fun, so much fun.
Well, yeah, and I've seen the kids just have a tremendous amount of fun where they're also digging and learning a lot about the curriculum. They're learning a lot about themselves. They're learning a lot about life. It is really fun and so exciting for families, for facilitators, and for the kids themselves to see. But Julia, I was up and I was on social media last night because, yeah, I've got kind of an unhealthy addiction to my laptop here, and I was rolling around and I saw on one of your social media accounts you're advertising something called iLead Engage. So that was something that was new to me that I hadn't heard of. Can you tell us? I think it looked like this was for high schoolers. Can you tell me about what iLead Engage is?
So who would we be without being innovative, right, at iLead? And something that we do a lot is survey, and we speak to our families and our learners. And one thing that they were asking for was live interaction, something where their kids can participate. They loved our model, but they wanted something where they could see a teacher live and maybe regular classes. And so we explored it for about a year, talked about it, tried it out a little bit, and now we full-blown rolled it out. So at iLead, right, our mission is free to think, inspired to lead.
Yes.
And we're committed to facilitating the growth of tomorrow's leaders. So if tomorrow's leaders are today's learners in our rooms, in our Zoom rooms or on our rosters, we really need to provide opportunities that allow that creativity to develop, curiosity, innovation, and we believe it happens heavily when you're collaborating with others. So when we talked to our high school team and we really listened to the feedback of our families and what they were looking for, they were really looking for engagement, interaction, and critical thinking as it is included in design thinking, but in more groups that are structured through a course. And they were looking for this in the high school level. So jokingly, but not jokingly, we said, okay, so the mission of iLead is free to think, inspired to lead. Mm-hmm. And you're right, tomorrow's leaders.
Yeah,
so then
absolutely.
we said, okay, so for iLead Engage, free to think, expected to engage, interact, and think critically, and then inspired to lead. So Engage is a program literally in the title where we are creating courses where, yes, we are covering content, but the primary intent and purpose of this is the engagement and interaction and critical thinking. Because we strongly believe that, for our learner outcomes, that D stands for design thinking. We really believe that design thinking happens and you get the best design thinking when you have a collaborative model where you're able to get feedback from others. So we're really excited. Right now, Matt, it is for high school, although our language class and art class is down to middle school.
Oh, nice.
And we are actively going to be tracking what's happening this year with Engage, and if it is successful, we are hoping to pull it down a little further to middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what would be different about Engage versus other online programs is, like I said, the focus on this is that engagement and interactive piece. So you will see PBL in these courses. You will see a lot of discussion and interaction. And so that is something, if that's something you're looking for, the courses through iLead Engage might be for you.
Well, and that's something that so many teenagers are craving, right? Well, all kids crave that interaction with their peers, but then it's also so important for the learning process, like you said, to be able to bounce ideas off of others and go through several iterations, get feedback, things like that. Now, Julia, I know school started last week, but producer Sarah, we call her producer Sarah, you know who I'm talking about, she found a really good reason to skip out on our weekly team meeting and head up to what we call the curriculum library. Actually, your curriculum library has two different locations, And I know when our families at iLead Exploration discover what these places are, they go nuts. And that's why Sarah wanted to go up there. Is first day of school, she wanted to take pictures, she wanted to take video because it's always so exciting. Can you share with our listeners what the curriculum library is at iLead Exploration and where they're located?
So we have two curriculum libraries, and luckily for your listeners right now, the large one, the big one, it's the big one. It's about 8 times bigger than the one in Orange County, which is located in Costa Mesa. The Acton location is much, much, much larger. And if any of you have ever thought of like what would a teacher store look like, except as a library where you could borrow anything you want, that's what it is. So for those of you who are like, a kid in a candy store, you might walk in and see, rooms of just floor-to-ceiling just materials. And I'm not just talking books and textbooks.
There's lots of textbooks up there, yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of books and resources. Yes, teachers' manuals, all that stuff. But there's also math manipulatives, science manipulatives, a lot of interesting, there's puzzles, games, microscopes, telescopes. There's a lot of different things that you can borrow. And here's the fun thing. When you first start with independent study and you have that freedom to be able to, with your facilitator together, select curriculum that best suits your child's needs, you get scared, like, what if it doesn't fit? What if it's not a good fit, right? And here's the beauty with our program. Then you go to the curriculum library and you could try something else. And everything from the library is no instructional fund cost to you. So we also ship because Acton is far for some people. And so you can look at the offerings online and we can ship it to you. So the nice thing is I think this gives you freedom as a family to be able to try, right? It lowers the risk because, what does it hurt? You're borrowing it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, families don't even need to use their educational funds to borrow these things. So how long can they check them out for?
Till they don't need it anymore. Typically, though, families, I will say, typically families will keep it for that school year and then return it because they don't have any interest in keeping boxes of things in their home indefinitely, right? And I think the thing is you let it go and you return it and pick up different stuff because it's exciting and fun for your kids, too, to see different things. So, yeah, it just gets returned and then you can check out the next year's curriculum or the next year, the level up.
Yeah, it was funny this year when Sarah came back, she was telling me about a family that was in there and she loves watching the different things that the kids get excited about. Like you said, it's like a huge teacher supply store, except that everything's for free to borrow. She said there was a family where each kid had a different musical instrument that they were walking out with. One of them had a trumpet, the other one had a guitar. I don't remember what the third one had. She said it looked like the Partridge Family loading up the car. It was fantastic. So you've got these curriculum libraries. You said there's one here in Acton, just up the road from where I'm at now, and you've got another one in Costa Mesa because you've actually got a good group of families down in Orange County. So Julia, that kind of begs the question. This is sort of a local radio show here in Santa Clarita, but what areas do you serve? You've got families kind of all over Southern California, don't you?
We do, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges because we do offer so many things in person, but we cover 5 counties, and we do host things in all 5 counties. But, San Bernardino in and of itself is massive.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the 5 counties we cover. If you live in Kern, Ventura, LA County, San Bernardino, or Orange County, we are able to serve your child. But outside of that, we are not able to. So residency needs to be in one of those 5 counties.
Okay. So any one of those 5 counties, but again, it is a free public charter school, and because you don't have to drive your kid to school every morning, it's easy to spread out that way. So I mentioned last week was the first day of school, and it was a very exciting time at the curriculum library. So if families are listening to us and they're interested, is it too late? Do they have to wait until next year, next semester, or is there still time to enroll?
Enrollment is ongoing, and it is still open. You may have to join a wait list first, just because there's certain, like, for example, TK, Matt. TK, we have dedicated TK staff. Right. Who all have their early education credential, and they have special, adorable TK activities and field trips, and so it's super cute. So we have some restrictions for certain grade levels where we have to, check numbers, but for the most part right now, we are able to admit people who are enrolling. And I did also want to say we did start school this Tuesday, but we do have families that are enrolling literally every day still.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, so
and
it's...
If you're interested in next year, that enrollment window opens at the very, very, very end of the year, end of December. So
end of the calendar year.
That would be the...
Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you've got a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and you're ready to enroll, or any year-old, as long as they're still, public school age, if they're ready to enroll for next year, you've got to wait until the end of December. It's kind of around the New Year time that the enrollment window opens for next school year, but you're still open for this year. You mentioned you've got a slight wait list, but some families are still coming in off of that wait list. So how do people get more information? How do they enroll, Julia?
info@iLeadExploration.org. That's the best place to go. You can get enrollment information. We have information on our school. And there is a password-protected side to it. But, again, we have had multiple info sessions. And so if they are interested, checking out our website, we post resources there and information about our program. So iLeadExploration.org.
So iLeadExploration.org is the website. You can email info@iLeadExploration.org and get any of the information that you need. I know your enrollment team is phenomenal about getting back to families and really explaining in detail the ins and outs of your program and how to get on board. So again, check them out at iLeadExploration.org. Email the team at info@iLeadExploration.org. Julia, it always inspires me to hear the incredible things happening at your school, iLead Exploration. Again, free public charter school, open to students TK through 12th grade throughout most of Southern California. I say most. You mentioned 5 counties earlier. I won't go through them again, but check them out at iLeadExploration.org. Julia, thank you so much for joining me this morning. You have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
And y'all stick around. We've got a couple more things for you. And pretty soon, I see Captain Justin Diaz from the Sheriff's Station just walked in. He'll be joining me in just a moment. You are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I'm Matt Watson. We'll be right back on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. And I tell you what, let's take a quick run through this day in history. Today's August 22nd, and I'm looking at the list. August 22nd has been quite the busy day over the last couple of, millennia. So I tell you what, let's just take a look at the highlights. It's been almost 2,000 years now. Yeah, August 22nd, year 79, Mount Vesuvius erupted. So Mount Vesuvius began stirring on feast day of Vulcan, a Roman god of fire. So kind of ominous. It must have been really fun for those families that were celebrating there in Pompeii. Going, oh, look at that! It's the Roman god of fire's feast day, and the local volcano is starting to stir a little bit. Isn't that neat? Isn't that coincident? Wait! What's going on? That was year 79, August 22nd. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to skip past here. Let's jump forward about 1,250 years. In the year 1305, Scottish patriot William Wallace was executed for high treason by Edward I of England at Smithfield, London. Y'all remember the epic movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, where William Wallace was fighting for the freedom of Scotland, and he was actually pretty successful, won a couple of battles, and was able to make some progress, but most notably able to stir the hearts and passions of the people of Scotland for independence. But alas, he was executed on this day in 1305. Jumping forward about another 700 years, this one kind of caught my eye. Governor Francisco de Bobadilla, that's a fun name to say. Governor Francisco de Bobadilla in 1500, on August 23rd, I'm sorry, I was getting the date wrong. August 23rd, 1500, Francisco de Bobadilla arrived in the Indies. Soon after, he arrested and sent the former governor of Hispaniola back to Spain. That former governor, Christopher Columbus. Yep, Christopher Columbus had been exploring the Caribbean and Central America, and had been named by the King of Spain as governor of Hispaniola. That's the island that contains present-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Christopher Columbus was governor, and apparently word on the street is that he had become quite the tyrant. He was pretty abusive, and had some draconian ideas on how the island should be run. Go figure. Well, apparently it was even too much for the King of Spain to stomach, and he sent de Bobadilla to arrest Christopher Columbus, send him back in shackles, and Columbus actually spent a couple of years in prison before the king said, maybe he wasn't such a bad guy. Here's another ship. Head on back to America. So that was in 1500 on August 23rd. What else? Let's skip forward here quite a bit, and let's see what else happened on August 23rd? Well, in 1789, in the height of the French Revolution, the National Assembly proclaimed freedom of religious opinions. So 1789, France finally got freedom of religion. That's again on August 23rd, 1789. So that is interesting. 1799, also happening in France. Well, Napoleon left France. Headed for Egypt. He was decided he wanted to head down to Egypt and seize power down there. So yeah, let's what do you want to do this weekend? Oh, let's just go steal Egypt. All right, hop on. Let's see. What else? Skipping way ahead to, I believe it was 1989. This one is actually not on my list, but it's in my brain, and I can see Big T is texting me. Big T, did you know this one? In 1989, Big T, have you got it? Baseball history. What happened in 1989 on August 23rd? Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel my spidey senses tingling. Big T knows it. That is the day that Pete Rose agreed to a lifetime suspension, a lifetime ban in baseball. Pete Rose was suspended or banned from baseball for the rest of his life. It's the punishment that has kept him out of the Hall of Fame all these years, and he's still pretty bitter about it. But what I didn't know is apparently it was pretty much common knowledge around baseball that Pete Rose had a gambling problem. People knew that Pete Rose was quite the gambler. I don't think people realized how much he was gambling on baseball, something that's a huge no-no in baseball. And then to take it even further, he was betting on his own team, and yeah, that one's a big no-no. So yeah, Pete Rose still banned, not getting in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So we'll see if maybe it happens posthumously. What else happened on this day, August 23rd? Well, I tell you what, August 23rd, 2021, so not so long ago, August 23rd, 2021, the Pfizer vaccine was the first vaccine to get full approval from the FDA. If you remember back those times, it seems like so long ago, but it was just 3 years ago that the Food and Drug Administration granted full approval to the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Previously, the vaccines had emergency approval, which I guess means they were... Well, maybe I probably shouldn't say it. They didn't have full approval, but they were still poking you with it. But so yeah, all of that happened, and a lot more happened on August 23rd. When we get back, we're going to talk to Captain Justin Diaz from the Santa Clarita Sheriff's Station. Stay tuned. I'm Matt Watson. You're listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. My next guest is LA County Sheriff Captain Justin Diaz. Captain Diaz is a 20-year veteran of the LA County Sheriff's Department. He was promoted to the rank of captain and assigned to the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Station in March of 2020, providing law enforcement services to our approximately 290,000 residents residents. Captain Diaz entered the Sheriff's Training Academy in December of 2001. Upon graduating, he was assigned to the Pitches Detention Center, just north of us right now, North County Correctional Facility. He also served as a deputy in various assignments, including the Transit Services Bureau, Community-Oriented Policing Services Bureau, and Operation Safe Streets Bureau. After being promoted to lieutenant in 2015, Diaz was assigned to Lancaster Station, Internal Affairs Bureau, Santa Clarita Valley Station, Lost Hills Station, and the Hall of Justice. Captain Diaz holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology and Criminology from Cal State University Northridge, my alma mater, and a master's degree in Criminal Justice from the University of Cincinnati, Ohio. Captain Diaz and his wife and 2 children have lived in the Santa Clarita Valley for 17 years now. Captain Diaz, welcome back to Eye on the Valley.
Thanks, Matt. Man, that was a pretty nice introduction.
Well, you've got quite the resume.
Thank you.
So appreciate you joining us again. We always appreciate the service that you and your deputies provide to our community. So, Santa Clarita, and you just shared something with me that I'm a little excited about, and we'll talk about that probably towards the end of the interview, really backing up my first statement here that Santa Clarita has always been known as a very safe community. So can you share some of the recent crime statistics or trends in the city?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, as you know, we're near 300,000 people if you add our city and an unincorporated area. Mm-hmm. And, our city and just the general Santa Clarita Valley is growing, all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And when you really take a step back and think about it, there's over 70 schools. We've got 40-something parks, 4 Metrolink stations, I don't know, 70 places of worship or thereabouts.
Wow.
It's just this big, 3 colleges, right?
Yeah.
We've got Masters and we've got COC and we've got CalArts.
Correct.
So anyway, when you think about it and you start thinking about the crime, we're actually doing really good.
Yeah.
So the way that we measure crime, and the whole entire country measures crime, is we report it to the FBI and we measure Part 1 crimes. Mm-hmm. And that's murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, theft, grand theft auto, and arson. And those are all the Part 1 crimes that we track. Every day when a police report is written, that goes into the computer. Ultimately, at the end of the year, it's supplied to the FBI, and they come out with their uniform crime reports.
Okay.
And that's how we determine crime around the country and our counties and our cities and our state and stuff. So with all of that said, in Santa Clarita, we're doing really well. For a community this size, the crime rate is actually very, very low. So over the last few years, our violent crime is still very low, although when you turn on the TV or open the newspaper, the violent crime is what makes the headlines, of course.
Well, sure. If it bleeds, it leads, right?
That's right, absolutely. But where we struggle here, and probably many cities around the country, as you can imagine, is property crime. And so the main property crime that we have, and there's various forms of property crime, but typically it's theft. And when you think of theft, it could be a range of things. So it could be, maybe your Amazon package taken off your porch.
Right.
It could be maybe your mail stolen. It could be theft from an unlocked car. That's a big thing we have in Santa Clarita. Unfortunately, a lot of people leave their cars unlocked. Either they forget or perhaps they have a false sense of security.
We get comfortable. We get lackadaisical. It's happened to me, yeah.
Absolutely. Or, at night, people not closing their garages, believe it or not.
I believe it. Again, it's happened to me.
Sure. And, and so, again, theft, grand theft auto, so stolen cars.
Sure.
That's certainly an issue. Retail theft. Right? Big box stores. We have big box stores out here, as every city does. The big, the big guys in the industry, you name it, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Dick's Sporting Goods, any big box retailer.
Right.
So there's a lot of retail theft as well. And really that's our, one of our big focuses is actual theft. And interestingly, we're always pushing the 9 p.m. routine. It sounds kind of corny, but if we can remind people, friends, families, business contacts, to at 9 o'clock before you go to bed, right? Close your garage door.
Yes.
Lock your car, make sure it's locked. Maybe get your packages off your porch. Hopefully you got them off your porch when they were delivered.
Sure.
But certainly don't leave them overnight. And, things like that. And we could really cut down on the theft. Locking the cars is a major thing. You imagine a big parking lot, let's just say the mall parking lot, for example, with hundreds of cars parked in there. If you're a bad guy or a bad gal, right, and you go through and flip car door handles, you can you can do it very discreetly. You may not look too suspicious.
Just looks like you lost your car like everybody else in the mall
Yeah.
parking lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. You lost your car and then you flip 20, 30 handles and one of them's unlocked. You're in business, right?
Sure.
You rummage through that car, you're in and out in 5-10 seconds
Yeah.
with whatever's in the center console. So what do people keep in their center consoles? Their fancy glasses, their earbuds,
Yep.
their expensive Apple earbuds or whatever.
Sure.
Or the complete opposite, being the good citizen, you lock your car, right? You remember to lock it, but you leave that fancy purse, your Lululemon, little fanny pack, right?
Yeah.
You leave it, or your, iPad. Are people still using iPads?
Yeah.
Right, Jen?
Yeah.
Your iPad. You leave your iPad there. You've locked the car, but it's visible. So then it's just, hey, break the window. Super simple to do, quick and easy. It doesn't make much sound, right?
Sure.
Because it's tempered glass. It just shatters. It's not a big deal. Shatters into little pieces. You'll barely hear it. Grab it and go, and you're off to the races with a brand new iPad.
Sure. So, gosh, you mentioned a lot of really good advice, and I'm starting to think, my laptop I carry with me pretty much wherever I go. That's going to go in the trunk when it's not going with me from now on. And you mentioned the 9 p.m. routine. That's a lot of good advice for citizens. But with property crimes kind of on the rise here in Santa Clarita, what other strategies is your team using to address it from a law enforcement standpoint? I understand that most of the time it's going to be reactive, right? You can't be there waiting for a guy flipping car door handles. But what strategies are you and your team using?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you actually hit the nail on the head. Typically, it's reactive. You get a call for service, and
Sure.
maybe you catch the bad guy, right, or the bad gal. Maybe you don't. Maybe they're gone, and you have to write a police report. But where we are really good here at Santa Clarita is what's a proactive arrest, right? So we've got our patrol deputies working, we've got our detectives working, and we've got all of our special teams working. And ultimately, what their job is to go around and make proactive arrests. So if you think about it, an arrest after a crime has been committed is fine. You're making the arrest, you've identified the law violator, and we expect our deputy sheriffs to make an arrest after a crime's been committed.
Right.
But in a perfect world, we want to make an arrest before a crime is committed, and that's proactive
Wait a minute,
policing.
that's making me a little bit nervous now. I'm reminded of a Will Smith movie. What do you mean by an arrest before a crime's committed?
Okay, so it's a great question. It's proactive policing. We're very good at it here in Santa Clarita. And ultimately what we'll do is we'll do special crime operations based on data from our crime analyst. We know that maybe there's, I'm just giving you an example. There could be theft in a certain area, or perhaps gang activity in a certain area, or grand theft auto at a certain week, or a certain day of the week, or a certain time of the week, something like that. We will send out our special teams or our detectives or our patrol deputies, and they'll do proactive crime enforcement operations. And ultimately what it is, it could be based on a traffic stop, it could be based on a pedestrian stop, it could be based on a bicycle stop. So maybe, Matt, you're driving down the street, perhaps you commit a vehicle code violation, the deputies stop you to either write you a citation or perhaps give you a warning. And then one thing leads to another, and they figure out that Matt's got a warrant for his arrest, or
Right.
Matt's got some drugs, or Matt's got a gun in the car, and Matt's arrested. And that would be a proactive arrest, right?
I see. So it's more based on statistics and analysis, building a concentration of officers in a certain area at a certain time, and then just being ultra vigilant about those kind of minor infractions, traffic violations, things like that, that may hopefully scoop up someone before they commit a major crime.
Absolutely. And
That is interesting.
We've got two great crime analysts at the station.
All right.
And, we always joke that they're like civilian detectives. And they go through all our crime stats. They make us crime maps. They make us, weekly crime bulletins, wanted flyers, or, be on the lookout flyers. We call them BOLO flyers.
Okay.
And they provide that data every week, to, not only our patrol, but our special teams that we have out there. We're very fortunate. We have a number of special teams. And our detectives. And it's a pretty good system we have. Not perfect, but it works pretty good.
Okay, fantastic. I love hearing how you can be proactive even with something like crime prevention. That is fantastic. So there have been some recent concerns about transient activity in the community. And I think post-COVID, we saw quite a spike, at least, anecdotally, I would see as I was driving around town and I would hear different reports. How's the Sheriff's Department addressing the transient population, and how have you partnered with maybe various nonprofits around town? I know we've got a lot of groups that are seeking to help folks get off the streets. So what is your department doing in and around the community about transiency?
Yeah, great question. So let me start by saying, it is not illegal to be homeless, right?
Right.
So we want everybody to know that. Oftentimes there's a misconception that it is.
I'll pick up the phone and call the Sheriff's
Yeah.
Department. Hey, there's a homeless guy in front of my house.
Right, right.
Okay.
So, okay, and let me also take a step back. So, our old homeless shelter, the previous one was on Drayton a long
Correct.
time ago, and that was before COVID. And then during COVID, it was moved over to the Newhall Community Center, which is right down the street from you.
Correct.
And then a couple years later, it was moved over to Pine Street, which is not right down the street from you, but it's not too far from you. And then most recently, our Bridge to Home homeless shelter,
Yes.
the new shelter opened back up on Drayton. What are we, a month ago, 2
Yep.
months ago? Somewhere like
Yeah.
somewhere like that. So nonetheless, I don't know how many beds they have, probably around 70 beds there. And that is a resource for our homeless out here. So with regards to the Sheriff's Department, we have two resources that we have out here that we rely on. One is our countywide host team. That's the Homeless Outreach Services team. They're countywide, and they service all 23 sheriff stations. But to double down on that, we partner with the city of Santa Clarita, and the city actually purchased, it gets very complicated how it works, but the city purchased a full-time homeless outreach services deputy
Oh, wow.
to service our Santa Clarita community. So we have one assigned full-time
Okay.
to our station. That was, again, in partnership with the city. We thought that myself and our city leadership thought that that was important.
Sure.
And that's full-time here at the station. That's one deputy, in addition to the homeless outreach services. So ultimately what they do is they work with city community preservation or their code enforcement, and they work hand in hand with them. Oftentimes they're with Bridge to Home.
Sure.
Oftentimes they're with our MET team, which is our mental evaluation team. And they ultimately go to, well, let me back up. Many of our homeless are in the Santa Clara River, right, which runs between the 5 and the 14.
I learned that a few years back, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll ultimately they'll go down to the homeless encampments. They'll offer them services. That's everything from mental services, medical services, housing, you name it. And then not only do they do that, but then they do the cleanups.
Sure.
And there's a legal process for doing the cleanups. It has to be posted ahead of time, give them time to move out their belongings, and then it's cleaned up, of course. And most recently, we just did one with the city of Santa Clarita over a week or a week and a half, and actually did 17 homeless encampment cleanups.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that deputy makes some pretty important connections with people experiencing homelessness, and that's very helpful, developing those relationships. And
Well, and you do, and not only that, but it's offering them whatever services they're willing to accept, right? And that could be as simple as some minor medical services. That could be something significant like, temporary housing. That could be something maybe a little less significant like maybe, I don't know, brief housing at Bridge to Home, something like that. So, there's a fine line. It's not just about arresting. There's a fine line, and there's a happy medium between offering services, perhaps an arrest if it's valid. So again, they're not being arrested for just being homeless. There would have to be another crime involved.
Right.
And that's how we're doing it. You typically don't see a significant amount of homeless people walking around Santa Clarita. Very different than the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is they, quite frankly, are many of them are housed in the Santa Clara River, which you just don't see. But we certainly do have them. Do have a number of homeless in Santa Clarita.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mentioned a little bit of a spike post-COVID. It just more than what we're used to seeing here in Santa Clarita. But I have been downtown a couple times over the last few months, and it has gotten just out of control downtown. So very fortunate.
We're very fortunate in Santa Clarita. It's not an issue like downtown or even the San Fernando Valley. We're very fortunate.
Right.
And honestly, we're staying vigilant with it. We're staying proactive with it. And really, Bridge to Home is just one of various community partners out here. But kind of a grassroots effort with the nonprofits out here and just
Sure.
trying to, make a difference as best we can.
Love the collaboration between the nonprofits, law enforcement, the city to make sure that things don't get out of hand like they have in some
Sure.
other areas close by. So a lot of our listeners are interested in some of those personal safety tips. You mentioned the kind of the 9 o'clock routine. Make sure your garage door's closed. You mentioned keeping things safe when you're parked and not in your car. Have you got any other tips before we go to a quick break?
Yeah, of course. Crime prevention through environmental design. It's actually a thing,
Oh,
right?
nice.
So think about it. It's stuff that you're probably thinking in your head. You just aren't. It's not at the forefront. So lighting. Okay.
Okay.
Businesses and homes that have no lighting. That's not good. You're going to be a target for criminals.
Right.
Light up that house. Light up that business. Ring cameras or any type of camera that records.
Sure.
Signage. Many years ago, you would hide your cameras, or you would hide, you wouldn't want people to know you're out of surveillance. And now, show your cameras, right? You want people
Yeah.
to know, and you want a sign that says, this property is being monitored by, whatever alarm system.
Absolutely, yeah.
Overgrown trees. If your house looks like nobody cares, broken windows theory, right? You got broken windows, you got overgrown trees, your trash cans are sitting out for 3 or 4 days, your mail's stacked up. If it looks like nobody cares, crime is going to flourish in that area.
Okay.
So, lighting, fencing, overgrown trees, trash cans, you name it. There's so many different things you can do to change your environment that would lessen your chances of being a victim.
Okay, fantastic. Great tips. We're talking this morning with LA County Sheriff Captain Justin Diaz. When we get back, we're going to talk about keeping our schools safe, keeping our teens out of trouble, and several other issues that I know you're all concerned about. Stick around. I'm Matt Watson. This is SCVi and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley, and you're listening to your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley. We're talking this morning with LA County Sheriff Captain Justin Diaz. He and his team are doing a great job keeping our community safe, and we were talking about tips on personal safety, keeping your person and your property safe here in Santa Clarita. Captain Diaz, I want to shift a little bit. I've lived in this community for about 45 years now. Grew up in this community, raised my children in this community. We've always enjoyed being one of the safest cities in America, and we'll talk about some of the accolades that our community continues to receive. And one of the things, the reason that I got to think most families even moved to this area was for our safe, high-quality schools. That being said, November 14th, 2019 reminded us that no community is completely safe from tragic violence in our schools. I know the Sheriff's Department works closely with local schools. Can you elaborate a little bit on the School Resource Officer Program and the role it plays in promoting school safety and how your team collaborates with the local school districts to keep our campuses as safe as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. So, we're very proud of our SRD program, the School Resource Deputies. As you know, we've got 5 school districts in Santa Clarita for our public schools. That doesn't include any of the private schools, of course, or our colleges.
Or charters.
Or charter schools, that's right. Yeah, you know a little bit about
little
the charter
bit, yeah.
schools, right? So anyway, the Hart School District, which is our high schools and our junior highs, contracts with the Sheriff's Department. We provide 7 SRDs, or school resource deputies, and a sergeant to oversee that contract. So there is a full-time deputy at each one of the high schools, and then they have a collateral of the corresponding, I should say, junior high.
Right.
And, it's a big deal. We love the program. Many of our kids, many of the deputies at the station and personnel at the station have kids, obviously, in our school districts.
Sure, yeah.
And even if it's not a Hart School District, our other 4 school districts, we're in constant communication with their superintendents, who, of course, are in communications with their, constant communication with their board members, such as yourself, or parents. And one of the big things is, active shooter drills, or active shooter training, I should say. We just did one the other day at one of our other schools. We do a big one every year at one of the high schools, and we invite the superintendents from the other school districts to come and watch. Last year was at Castaic High School.
All right.
The year before, I think, was at Valencia High School. And I'm not sure where we'll do it this year, but either way, we do one big one a year. We'll do an active shooter training We'll watch a video and we'll have a question and answer session either before or after the event. And then we'll put on a full live simulation event, which is a major, major production. We'll have, many deputies go through the scenarios. We'll have actors. We'll have, I mean, you name it. It's a big thing.
Okay.
And really, that's to get the deputies trained, at these different schools. That's why we'll change it at a different high school every time, get them familiar with the schools. And then, of course, our superintendents and anybody else who is not a part of the actual Hart School District can come, get the training, and then disseminate that information, to their parents, their board members, their students, things like that. So we're very proud of that program.
Yeah.
These SRDs are in the schools. They kind of wear a bunch of hats. They're not just lawmen or women. They're kind of, they're a little bit of everything. They're kind of like psychologists, they're a friend, they're a coach, they're a sociologist, they're kind of a little bit of everything, right?
Sure, yeah, and very grateful to have, that's fantastic, 7 in and around the community and stationed at the local high schools. We really appreciate that. Now, talking about working with our kids, working with our teens, regrettably, just this past spring, you confirmed that your department has suspended the J team. I'm talking about the Juvenile Intervention Team, very respected unit that focused on a nexus of youth offenders, drug crimes, and an intervention-like approach. I know this was mainly personnel-based, but how's the department going to continue to address these issues related to juvenile crime and drug use with the elimination of this team?
Yeah, great question. So the team initially consisted of a sergeant, a detective, 2 deputies, and an intervention specialist. To your point, due to staffing issues, ongoing staffing issues over the last several years and currently that we're facing, I had to make a very, very difficult decision to suspend that team. But there's more to it. The intervention specialist is simply now working with the school resource deputies.
Okay.
And his name is Robbie Robinson. If you've never met him, I'm sure many of your listeners have. He's a great, great guy, former probation officer. Yeah. And he does drug and alcohol intervention. He does juvenile intervention. He's really a one-stop shop at the station. He's in and out of the schools, in and out of just different community events, offering services, offering his card, and has done really, really, really well. And we also had a K-9 deputy as well. K-9 deputy's been reassigned to our crime intervention team, our SIT team.
Okay.
So he's still in business, and that's our K-9 deputy's got 2 dogs. One's a drug dog, and one is a gun dog.
Okay.
And then our juvenile and gang team, which those are our detectives. Basically, anything that the J team was doing prior, now the juvenile and gang detectives, JAG, now they're taking over all the J team responsibilities.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, when it was all said and done, what had to be suspended was 2 deputies and a sergeant.
Okay.
But they've all been redeployed to other teams, and all the services are still available either through our juvenile and gang team or SRDs.
That's good to hear. So it's kind of the resources have been reallocated in other locations, but so the services are still there for the community, but the team did have to be suspended. And like we said, it was kind of personnel based. It's tougher than ever in 2024 to be a cop. It's not easy work, and I know recruitment efforts are ongoing. The Santa Cruz community has always been incredibly supportive of their first responders. You and Engineer Jen and I were talking about it before we started this morning. Law enforcement agents in particular. Given that support and in light of the recent staffing shortage, are there any programs or activities that your team is offering that would support youth and young adults who might be considering a career in law enforcement, kind of early recruitment kind of activity?
Yeah, no, that's a great, we are actually kind of fortunate in Santa Cruz because most everybody that works at the station, that's sworn civilian, all ranks, it could be anybody at the station, most everybody lives in Santa Cruz. So as far as recruiting to Santa Cruz, it's not an issue. We don't have an issue with that because so many law enforcement live in Santa Cruz, not just from our department, but from everywhere. From all the departments. So getting them to Santa Cruz is not the hard part. It's getting them on the department, to your point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and at Santa Cruz over the last few years, last 2.5 to 3 years, we've had significant staffing shortages, but it's not just at our station. It's at all the stations, all the jails, all the courthouses, all the bureaus, units, you name it. We are operating at about 70%
Wow.
and ebbs and flows a little bit. But we're making it work, of course,
Okay.
with overtime, and we're making it work. To get to your question, the way to recruit on the department, the department's got an Explorer program, and Explorers are great. We've got deputies at our station that were Explorers as little kids.
Nice.
Got on the department and came back to the station. But the Explorer program's small. It's not a big program, and we need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deputies a year.
Sure.
The department's got a big, recruitment campaign, of course. We've got a whole recruitment division through our personnel bureau. And really what it comes down to is word of mouth. You can only get so many people by putting up ads on the internet
Right.
and, going and recruiting at college campuses or perhaps military bases or job fairs. That's tough because if you're at a job fair and there's 50 booths, what are the chances that you're going to come to the sheriff booth? Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know. But really, it comes down to word of mouth.
Yeah.
And, if your family's in law enforcement and you say, you tell your little nephew or your son or your daughter or whatever, hey, this is a fun job, you'll have a good career, you'll have good benefits for your family,
Sure.
you'll always have fun, you'll never be bored. And really, it's just something that's, it's got to be in your blood. It's got to be in your DNA. It's not for the faint of heart, right? It's
Right.
not a job that you join and then you quit a couple years later. It's going to take you probably 9 months to a year to get hired, to go through all the background, the psychological, all the training. You're going to be another 5 months in the academy. You're going to be a patrol trainee for another 6 months. I mean, it's a major, major lifestyle and a life commitment that, really isn't cut out for everybody. But people like yourself bringing attention and awareness to it, or engineer Jen, she talks to one of her friends or, her husband's friends or whatever. And, it's really just the word of mouth is probably our biggest recruitment.
That is interesting. I remember as a kid growing up, my dad worked LAPD for 30 years, and he was always my coach in baseball. And I can't tell you how many, as we got a little bit older, we got to 14, 15, 16, how many of my teammates all of a sudden were sitting on the couch chatting with my dad. So what's it like to be a cop? What do I need to do? So to that point, if somebody's interested in a career in law enforcement, specifically with the LA County Sheriff's Department, what would be their first step? Where would they go?
Yeah, you would just go to lasd.org, which is our sheriff's, our main internet page. All the recruitment information's on there, the salary, the benefits. Of course, there's a lot of overtime opportunity. You
Sure.
can certainly make a good amount of extra money working overtime.
Okay.
And there's a lot of career opportunities. There's hundreds of different jobs. When you see a police officer or deputy sheriff driving down the street in patrol, that is one job of probably several hundred.
Oh, wow.
And there's anything, from an SRD deputy to a patrol deputy to a K-9 deputy to a special team and the list goes on and on.
Sure.
So, that's the first step. It's a long process, but it's a very rewarding job. And, you and your family will live a good life and be well taken care of. You have wonderful benefits, and you're always, the camaraderie is like no other job in the world. And, we have so much fun. And then if you live in Santa Clarita, all of our local listeners, what better thing than to work in Santa Clarita and live here. I mean,
Right.
that's the best thing. And that's what you guys are doing right now, right?
Absolutely.
So, why not do that? And, it sounds kind of cliche, but serve your community, make a difference where you live, right?
Sure.
Go see, if your kid's at school today or your kid's got a game or, go, you're on duty, go by Central Park and watch your kid's game or go watch their school play. We want the deputies to interact with the community. We want them, to go see their kids on duty. We want them, that's part of it, because you're living here and you're working here.
Sure. So is there, for deputies, is there that much choice in their assignment? I would love to give back to my community, serve my community, especially, it's the commute isn't bad, right? When you live 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from the office and where you're working, and then also to be a law enforcement agent in a community that is so supportive. But sure, I'm going to sign up and they're going to stick me down in San Pedro or something like that. Do your deputies have that much choice in where they're assigned?
Yeah, it's actually a loaded question. Yes and no.
Okay.
So the department will assign you where they want. However, you can always transfer to where you want to be.
Okay.
So if your initial assignment isn't where you want to be, let's say it's your initial assignment's at another sheriff's station, there's 23 stations.
Okay.
You can certainly put in a transfer to come to Santa Clarita and then make that your home.
Okay.
Or sometimes we'll get people that promote to detective or sergeant or lieutenant, and then they'll come to Santa Clarita as a new promotee. So yeah, I mean, it's really the best of both worlds. We're very lucky here that the community supports us, the city supports us, our county leaders, our school district superintendents. I mean, this is, you really don't see this at the other 23 sheriff stations. You may see, you may see it here and there, but I mean, to have what we have here is very special, and we don't take it for granted. I certainly don't. I don't think the deputies, or I know the deputies don't.
I'm glad we don't take your team for granted either. We really appreciate you all being here. So looking ahead, what are some of the challenges that you kind of see on the horizon? Well, challenges and opportunities really for law enforcement in Santa Clarita, either issues in the community or in the department. What do you see kind of coming up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So challenges, really staffing.
Okay.
I just briefly touched upon it. We're operating at about 70%. Basically, the lack of deputies that we have, we're making up with overtime. As
Okay.
you can imagine, that can get a bit cumbersome. I don't know when there will be relief, but that's certainly going to be a challenge in the future. But, my job as the captain is to determine how to get around that, how to, lessen the blow as much as possible. And that can be various things. That could be more overtime, less overtime. It could be suspension of teams. It could be redeployment of resources. It could be, there's a multitude of things. At our station, our crime prevention approach is a three-prong approach, and it's our special teams. We have numerous special teams at the station. It's patrol, of course, first and foremost, and then our detectives. And, every month or every couple months, it kind of ebbs and flows with how many people we have at the station. You're going to have transfers, you're going to have promotions in or promotions out. You're going to have injuries, of course. We're going to have people on military leave. We're going to have people on FMLA. So it's this constant sliding scale.
Sure.
And really, that's our biggest challenge, at least currently, is figuring out, month by month or, every couple months, how we're going to, combat that sliding scale of personnel. We're doing okay, certainly, we're making it work, and we'll just keep trucking on, so we're very fortunate, again, that we've got that opportunity to, to change around our different resources and stuff and have the support of the city and the sheriff, and Sheriff Luna, lets me run this station how I see fit. So we're very fortunate. With regards to opportunities, I mean, the opportunities just locally for the Sheriff's Department are great. I mean, we already talked about, living here and working here is huge. We have a great patrol contingent. We have a large detective bureau. We have special teams. Deputies here can work, crime intervention. They can work gangs. They can work Magic Mountain. They can work motors. They can work up in Gorman. They can work our SRDs, our school resource deputies. They can work in dispatch. You name it, there's a lot of opportunity here. The city is expanding, certainly. There's parks being built and homes being built. And, I often say that the future of the Sheriff's Department, of our 23 stations, is, quite frankly, Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
When you think of the other cities around the county expanding, I think it's safe to say there aren't expansion like we have here in Santa Clarita. We've got a new sheriff station that's only a couple years old, or coming up on 3 years, I think, in November. I don't think there's any plans for any new sheriff stations anytime soon, and this station's going to be here for 50 plus years. So, the opportunity on the department is certainly here, an expanding sheriff station, an expanding community. And, there's going to be a bright future here in Santa Clarita. It really is the future of the Sheriff's Department. It sounds really corny, but it's the truth.
It sounds good. It sounds good. I mentioned it a little bit earlier when you came in this morning. You brought with you some of the accolades that our community and very closely related you and your deputies at the department have received recently. So I kind of want to go down the list really quickly, and if you want to comment on them. Just this January, 2024, I believe it was the Property Club named us among the safest cities in the U.S. We're number 8 on their list of safest cities in the U.S. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I had sent you some of those that we've kind of tracked or kept over the years. Since 2020, we've had just the ones that we've tracked or the ones that have been brought to our attention, probably, 14 or 15 different accolades Property Club, Money Geek, Smart Asset, some of those online publications. And, it's interesting. People talk about the crime in Santa Clarita, and it's definitely here, right? And it has gone up since 2020, since COVID. But when you really look at the numbers and we're compared to other large cities, we're doing really well. And, we're not immune or exempt from crime, of course. Everybody knows that. You open social media or you open the paper, you're going to see it. But, other cities aren't exempt from it either. And, when they start checking out the numbers, these online publications just keep giving us these accolades over the last 5 years or so, 4 years, 5 years. And, that's something to be said not only for the Sheriff's Department, but for the grassroots efforts. You think about Santa Clarita, the mecca of grassroots efforts, right? From, community organizations, HOAs, nonprofits, you name it.
Sure.
And it's really, it's a combination, it's a partnership of, radio stations like you guys, community organizations, you name it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Smart Asset. 2022, we were named among America's happiest cities. Again, 2022, one of America's safest. It seems like year after year we're named, at least in the top 10 of America's safest cities. And again, like you said, a collaboration between law enforcement, local community-based organizations, and all different kinds of things. So thank you. Congratulations. We appreciate it. Captain Diaz, I think the last time you were on with us, you met my big brother. How's your tolerance level this morning? Are you feeling like goofing off with him a little bit, or have you got an urgent call all of a sudden that you've got to get to?
No, I like him because he gave me easy at trivia last time.
There we go. In fact, I think you did pretty well last time. All right. You're going to have a chance to play along with us as well, so go ahead and stick around. We will be right back. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson, and I'm joined this morning by Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Captain Justin Diaz. But now we're bringing in Big T. It is time for Big T's 5 minutes of fame. Y'all know Big T. He is an executive and a philanthropist. He's an amazing father, husband, and dog dad, and he is the exact proof that there's no such thing, Captain Diaz, as a victimless crime. Here he is, everybody. He's Mom's favorite, Big T. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Matty.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Say hello to the captain.
Hello, Captain Diaz.
Good morning, Big T.
Big T, we're also joined this morning by the boss, Engineer Andrew.
Good morning.
What's up, brother?
All right, so I want to share with you the rules, Captain Diaz. Big T's got some trivia questions for us, and so he's going to call out the question, and then you've got to hit your buzzer. So if you remember, your buzzer is your name. So I don't know if you want to call out, the Honorable Captain Justin Diaz, or just Justin, or Captain. Or
My wife's going to laugh at you if
Okay.
I calling me the Honorable Justin Diaz.
Okay. All right. So you can just go with Justin for whatever reason. I go with Frogger. We've got Jen. We've got Andrew. But the listeners at home, they get a significant advantage. They don't have to shout out their name. They can just shout out the answer and see if they can beat us. But between the four of us, we got some pretty smart people in the room here. So I don't know that you're going to be able to beat us. You keep score along at home. I'll keep score here in the station. Big T, let's do this.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ditch my normal fun fact, Matt, because I was listening to Captain Diaz talk this morning about proactive policing, and I heard him say that Matt has drugs in his car, and Matt has a gun in his car, and Matt's up to no good. I mean, this captain is good. I didn't know he knew you that well.
Tony, I'm a professional educator. Let's take it easy, bro.
So last time I came, I had some easy questions for the captain. We're going to stick with some California trivia. Nothing easy this week. So, well, I shouldn't say California, West Coast trivia, but a large portion around California. So we'll kick it off. LA's famous Hollywood sign once contained what four additional letters reflecting its original Jen?
Land.
Land is correct.
L-A-N-D.
Its original use for real estate development. What annual music festival is held over a 3-day weekend in April at the Empire Polo Club?
Oh, wait a minute.
Justin.
I jumped too fast. You go ahead.
Captain Diaz?
At the Polo Club?
Yes.
I'm going to say Coachella.
Coachella is correct.
Well, that's
Nice
what I was
Nice.
going to say.
Well,
The Polo
you should
Club
have.
threw me off.
You should have. When you don't answer, you're
I know.
you're
When in
just
doubt, just throw it
conceding,
against the wall.
But yeah.
Rappers Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr.
Frogger.
Andrew.
That was pretty close, T. Go with it.
Andrew.
NWA.
That is incorrect, Frogger.
Oh,
Okay.
West Side Connection.
Incorrect. I'll give the question for the other two. Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and many others are from Compton, California. What city does rapper Too Short rap?
Jen.
Andrew.
Jen,
Inglewood.
incorrect. Anybody?
Well,
Andrew.
well, and hang on. You've already answered Captain Diaz. You got anything?
I don't have anything on that one.
All right.
It's up north in
All right,
Oakland.
Oakland, California, Oaktown.
Okay, so he got one wrong and one right. Is that half a point, or was that just a correct answer emeritus?
That's the point.
Full point.
That's
You guys
just the
are
correct answer that we had.
All right.
Settle down, Frogger, okay?
All right. No,
Don't be so competitive.
I'm good.
All right. Who was the only U.S. president to have been born in California?
Frogger.
Frogger.
I believe it was Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon is correct. Yorba Linda. Wow.
Frogger's on the
All
board.
the leaves are brown. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray.
Frogger.
Begins
Jen.
The 19th. Frogger.
Okay. Artist. Title. Artist. I'm going The Mamas and the Papas.
Mamas and the Papas is correct. The song is California Dream, and who sang it? Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
How many state capitals lie west of Los Angeles?
Frogger.
Frogger.
5.
Incorrect.
Andrew. 3.
Andrew. Incorrect.
Jen.
Jen.
2.
Incorrect. You guys are going the wrong way. Oh, no. There's your hint.
It's a trick question.
Justin, 7.
It's actually 6. Honolulu, Hawaii. Juneau, Alaska.
Okay.
Salem, Oregon.
That's
Olympia,
the second
Washington,
week in a row I
Sacramento,
forgot about
Carson
Hawaii and
City.
Alaska.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Did you say Sacramento on that list?
Yes.
Sacramento is west of California? Is that what you're
When
telling
you
me?
look at it, Matt, yes, it is.
Yep.
Oh, west of Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
West of Los Angeles.
Okay.
On February 13th, 2022, what LA Ram player became the 8th wide receiver to win the Super Bowl MVP?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Cooper Cup.
Cooper Cup.
Coop.
What Sunset Strip club gives birth to acts like the Kinks, the Who, Cream, Led Zeppelin,
Frogger.
Roxy Music, Frogger?
Is that the whiskey?
At the Whiskey A Go-Go, also
Woo-hoo.
Motley Crue and Van Halen. Nice bowl. The Olympics will be held in Los Angeles in 2028. When were the last time the Summer Olympics were held in L.A.?
Andrew.
Andrew.
84?
1984. Nice
Time
bowl.
for one more, Big T. One more.
All right, what's the name of the NFL stabilium where the Rams and the Chargers call home?
Justin.
I
Wow.
Jen.
Well, now I think I'm going to say it's not the Intuit Dome, is it? No, it's
No,
not.
it is not.
No, Captain Diaz.
SoFi Stadium.
If I
Boom.
Stadium. Nice bowl, Captain.
Good pull. 3-3 to 4-1. We got to wrap it up, Big T. We want to thank our guests for joining us this morning. School Director at iLead Exploration, Julia Kim, LA County Sheriff Captain Justin Diaz, Producer Sarah, Engineer Jen, Engineer Andrew, and thank you for listening. Remember, friends, life is hard, but we're all here to help each other along. Be well, do good, enjoy the beautiful weekend out this weekend. Join us again next week and every Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. I am Matt Watson, and this is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS.